To tank or not to tank? Raptors fans have been asking this all year long. Seems like we're going for the play-in. This is Hoop Talks. What is up, guys? It is Jelani Goodridge-Reid here alongside Justin Pooni and Noor Zainab. And guys, the Raptors are coming off of a loss against Indiana at home the other night by 4 points. And now we have Detroit tonight. But on the topic of Toronto, they are in that play-in situation. So let's take a look at the Eastern Conference so far, guys. And look, it's kind of tight right now in the Eastern Conference. The Raptors are 9th right now. As you can see, Chicago's right behind us. Atlanta, we're trying to get that 8th spot, just haven't been able to. And Brooklyn at the 7th. So I want to ask you guys, looking at this board right now, okay, looking where the Raptors are right now at that 9th spot, who do you think? I'll go to Noor first for this one. Who do you think the Raptors should want to play in the play-in?
I think of all the teams that are around us and probably going to give us some kind of a competition in the play-in, I want to see the Brooklyn Nets. I think that's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. They've pretty much fallen off the horse ever since everything transpired between Kevin Durant. I was going to say Kevin Love, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, having let go of Steve Nash. We thought they were seeing something come back into together, but ever since they let those two guys go, and Jacques Vaughn has been a part of it. I know bringing a lot of those other pieces in has been something that they want to build towards in the future, but as of right now, it hasn't really been showing anything on the court. And I think that's when the Raptors can take a team like that doesn't really have an identity just yet. The Raptors don't have one either. But I think in this battle, this is something that they can take no problem. But in terms of the other teams too, I think the only team I probably wouldn't want to face are the Hawks. I just don't trust Trae Young. I think especially next to DeJounte Murray, because if you're trying to stop Trae Young, what if DeJounte Murray goes off? And if you're going to give me a battle of offense, I'm not going to take the Raptors in that battle. I'm going to take the other team. So I just don't want to see the Atlanta Hawks, but I think the Chicago Bulls and the Brooklyn Nets, the Raptors can take.
Yeah, Justin?
When you look at the standings, though, like if you put the board back up, like I think Brooklyn's kind of set into that 7 seed, right? I think Miami now is they're playing a lot better. Miami's won, they're 7-3 in their last 10. They're kind of now getting back into that, solidifying a playoff position. So I think Brooklyn's pretty safe in that 7 seed. If I'm the Toronto Raptors, like Noor mentioned, I'm trying to get to the 10 seed. I'm trying to fall, and lose games, tank to fall to the 10 seed, because you have a higher chance of beating the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn. They have no home court advantage in Brooklyn.
No,
they have 0 fans there, right? Maybe like Nick Wright and a couple other people. That's really about it. But if I'm the Raptors, I want to play the Brooklyn Nets because, like we mentioned, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray in Atlanta. That's a higher chance you're going to lose, right? I think the Bulls, I think the Raptors and Bulls are kind of going to be those two teams for the 9 and 10 spot. If I'm the Raptors, I'm going to try to get that 10 spot. We hear about that teams intentionally throw games to get better playoff positioning.
They might be right now, based on how they're playing.
They're playing on thin ice because Indiana's not far off.
I was going
right?
to ask you, like, you said try to get that 10th, but is there an opportunity for another team to, catch up to the Raptors and then us fall out?
Obviously, Nick Nurse is going to make sure they play to win every game because they still have some belief that they can get the 6th seed, which I think is a foregone conclusion.
It's a bit too far.
I think it's too far
But
at this point.
We also have talked about how they need to get a home playoff date in the play-in because that gives you the luxury. If you lose that game at home, you can still play a game on the road, right? They're in a weird position, the Raptors. If we look at the Raptors, I don't think right now playing Atlanta in Atlanta is the best. That's the worst case scenario. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You want to avoid that. So
I think even in Toronto, to be honest, not to cut you off, but I think as we know about Trae Young, he doesn't care about playing at home. He will play in New York court and he will make sure that he's the number 1 villain. So I don't like them anywhere.
Trae's, they're a proven team in the playoffs. They won the Eastern Conference Finals a couple of years ago, right? So if I'm the Toronto Raptors, I'm trying to avoid the Atlanta Hawks at all, right? I do not want to play them at all.
Yeah, no, I think that Atlanta, they've been a 500 team all year long, so they haven't been as good as we thought, but that would be a scary situation. Chicago, I mean, they've been in a tough spot. I think the Raptors could get Chicago personally. But let's look at another team like Washington. If they get in there and we meet Washington, I think that's bad news for us, in my personal opinion.
If the Pacers get in, that's bad news. The Pacers swept the Raptors this season series, right?
Right. So I think because Washington, I think they go under the radar. If they can find a way to get in, that's a problematic, team because they have Kristaps, right?
Yeah.
That has hurt us. Bradley Beal, he could give you 25 plus whenever he wants. And let's not forget, Kyle Kuzma has had a good year this year. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. But on this topic of the play-in and the Raptors, guys, we talked about it all year. Okay. We talked about the trade deadline and things of that nature. So, Nora, I'll go to you. Do you think it was the right decision to try and play for the play-in rather than, like what Raptors fans wanted, or the majority wanted us to start tanking?
So my take on the whole thing is I understand why Masai stood pat at the trade deadline. Even though a lot of people might not agree with him right now, what came to surface after the trade deadline was the deals just weren't there that the Raptors would have wanted to get back. And I can understand that and I can agree with that. But the problem now is you could have tanked. You could have gotten a lottery pick. You didn't have to be in the position of having to play in the play-in, because now you're trying to figure out how do you make your standings work so that you get the team that you match up the most well against, because let's face it, the Raptors don't really match up well against most teams, especially teams with height. And that's why you don't want to see the Pacers or Wizards, because they have taken our numbers this entire year. But because of that, I think they should have just taken the tank. Like, you didn't have to go and trade guys. That's okay. And I understand Masai probably wants to bank on this team one last time, but this team showed you who they were even a week after the All-Star break, which was after the trade deadline. So at that point, you could have just taken your foot off the gas pedal and said, you know what, I want to go with the sweepstakes for Wemby. Let's check this out.
So
but now you're, sorry to cut you off, but like,
okay.
I'm gonna rant, but now you're looking to face off against the Bucks or Boston.
Ooh.
If you make it over the play-in, that's a bad spot to be.
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask you, like, was it worth it getting a guy like Jakob? He has changed the complexion of both offense and defense, but was it worth it?
Look, I remember when he first got traded to Toronto, I thought it was a horrible trade by the Raptors, right?
I remember that.
I was absolutely like confused as to why they would trade a first-round pick for Jakob, but he's played very well. The proof is in the game, right? The game film. Made an impact defensively, made an impact offensively. The pick and roll with Fred is unbelievable, but you could have got him in free agency. And now the other thing is Gary Trent and Fred VanVleet are both going to become free agents, and they control all the cards on where they want to go. And if they don't want to be in Toronto, well, then Masai, you lost two assets right there that could have brought you a boatload of stuff. And that's a risk that you have to own up, and that could have either sink or let this
could have
franchise
gone Pirtle for free without giving up the first round pick too. So
that is true. That is true. Like, for me as a Raptors fan, I do want to see them in the playoffs, have that success, but I just don't know, guys. The offseason will be what determines the future, like the next 5 years of this team.
Yeah.
Because I think something's going to happen, or things, plural, are going to happen for sure. But we'll see what happens. Also, watch out for teams like Indiana and Washington. They're lurking, okay, in terms of the play-in situation. The Raptors, again, they are 9th right now. But for Noor Zainab, for Justin Pooni, I am Jelani Goodridge-Reid. We'll see you next time.